Last night's events are genuinely history-making, and the entire aerial power balance across the Middle East has been permanently turned on its head. 40 of the world's most sophisticated, costly, cutting-edge fighter aircraft completely destroyed. Not during an intense dogfight, not amid a bold mission through enemy airspace. No, they were eliminated while parked on the tarmac inside fortified hangars before any Israeli aviator could even reach the cockpit. Billions in state-of-the-art American technology reduced to ash and debris in less than half an hour by a nation Washington has tried to suffocate for 5 decades through embargoes, covert actions, and relentless diplomatic isolation. The F-35 represents Israel's premier asset and the allegedly invincible stealth platform. Each unit carries a price tag exceeding $100 million. This was the aircraft designed to render Israel invulnerable, unreachable, and overwhelmingly superior regardless of mission profile. The platform Washington guaranteed would secure Israeli aerial dominance for 3 solid decades ahead, and now it's been decimated by a weapons platform that Western intelligence had dismissed for years as little more than a limited-range novelty, a propaganda instrument, something their shield systems could effortlessly intercept and disregard. Last night, that overconfidence carried a devastating cost. Israel sacrificed its entire forward offensive air capability in one operational cycle. Nevatim Air Base, the operational core of Israel's F-35 squadron and the staging ground for virtually every significant Israeli airstrike throughout the region, was pounded by an exquisitely coordinated, massive bombardment so accurate and swift that Iron Dome, David's Sling, and every additional layered shield mechanism couldn't prevent the catastrophe from materializing. When the smoke cleared across the Negev wasteland, the entire strategic landscape of the Middle East had been rewritten in flames. Israel retired as the undisputed aerial superpower. It awoke as a country stripped of offensive air strength. And Washington, which had staked its whole regional strategy on preserving Israel's qualitative military advantage intact, now faces an enormous gap in its security framework that no emergency resupply or rapid replacement effort can close immediately. Tonight, we're diving into 3 crucial questions everyone's demanding answers to. First, how precisely did Iran execute a coordinated precision assault on several fortified Israeli air bases simultaneously without triggering major early warning protocols? Second, what can the Fatah 360 actually accomplish? And why did the most costly advanced missile shield network in the Middle East collapse so spectacularly? Third, with Israel's F-35 squadron devastated and its offensive aerial power disabled, what comes next? And does Washington possess any practical military response that won't ignite a full-scale regional conflict? The answers are harsh, but you deserve to hear them. To comprehend just how enormous this assault truly was, you must first grasp what Nevatim Air Base represents to Israel's complete defense infrastructure. This isn't merely another airstrip, it's the command hub of Israeli air superiority throughout the entire theater. It houses the majority of Israel's F-35 Adir squadron, jets loaded with sensor integration technology, stealth coatings, and electronic warfare capabilities that no rival air force in the Middle East can remotely rival. Every significant Israeli raid against Iranian installations in Syria, every strike on Hezbollah's weapons factories, every long-range incursion into hostile airspace, it all originated from Nevatim. Destroying that flight line didn't simply eliminate aircraft, it obliterated Israel's capacity to project force across the whole strategic theater in a single stroke. Iran understood this perfectly. The operation launched at 2:17 a.m. local time, a moment that was anything but random. Israeli air defense personnel were at their minimum alertness threshold. The overnight crew had recently changed shifts. Radar facilities and control rooms were operating on skeleton staffing, and response intervals were at their peak delay. Iranian strategists had analyzed Israeli defensive routines for years through signals interception, unmanned aerial reconnaissance, and intelligence assets that Western agencies had consistently undervalued. Initially came an enormous surge of low-signature decoy UAVs saturating the radar environment from all vectors. The networks managing Iron Dome and David's Sling experienced what technicians term saturation overload. Excessive contacts, insufficient interceptors, and refresh cycles that couldn't maintain pace. While every launcher was occupied pursuing Phantoms, the actual Fatah 360 volleys were already incoming from western Iran and from portable platforms pre-positioned throughout Iraqi soil, exploiting attack trajectories Israeli sensors weren't comprehensively monitoring. The Fatah 360s arrived in clusters of 8 to 12, each formation zeroed in on designated fortified shelters at Nevatim. The complete bombardment from initial detonation to final impact was condensed into less than 4 minutes. During that window, Israel possessed no feasible method to organize a unified response. The installation's internal warning infrastructure was barely activating when the subsequent waves were already beginning terminal approach. Simultaneously, and this detail left IDF leadership stunned, another strike formation impacted Ramon Air Base in the southern Negev. That's the location where Israel had discreetly repositioned a reserve group of F-35s as contingency. The reality that Iran identified the precise dispersal coordinates and struck them with identical surgical precision demonstrates an intelligence penetration that Israeli authorities haven't publicly acknowledged, yet the blast crater evidence speaks for itself. By 2:47 a.m., merely 30 minutes following the initial launch sequence, the casualty assessment arriving at IDF command was so catastrophic that ranking officers initially rejected the figures. 40 aircraft verified destroyed or irreparable. 3 reinforced hangar facilities structurally compromised. The primary fuel and munitions storage blazing uncontrollably, and Ramon's dispersal zone equally devastated. Israel's offensive aerial strength had been incapacitated in a single 30-minute interval. There exists no contemporary comparison for this scale of achievement in Middle Eastern combat. During the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel eliminated the Egyptian, Jordanian, and Syrian air arms in a preemptive campaign spanning approximately 3 hours. Last night, Iran accomplished the equivalent using ballistic missiles launched from beyond 1,000 kilometers against a fully alert adversary, and completed it in 30 minutes. The Fatah 360 had appeared on Western intelligence assessments for some time, yet nobody considered it a critical concern. Published specifications described it as a 120-kilometer range, solid propellant ballistic weapon with single-digit meter precision. Specialists categorized it as a tactical short to medium range platform, not a strategic danger. Last night obliterated that whole evaluation. What the specialists overlooked wasn't the distance capability, it was the lethal fusion of its endgame guidance suite, its barrage launch philosophy, and the extensive support ecosystem Iran had constructed covertly. During the terminal flight segment, the Fatah 360 activates an integrated electro-optical targeting sensor coupled with radar altimetry and inertial guidance. It doesn't merely pursue GPS waypoints, it actually observes the terrain below, correlates what it detects with a preloaded digital reference of the target structure, and directs itself toward a specific impact point on that facility. GPS disruption produces zero impact because the weapon ceases GPS dependency in the terminal segment. That explains why weeks of American GPS interference throughout the region accomplished nothing to degrade accuracy. Solid fuel propulsion enables the launcher to mobilize, deploy, and fire within minutes with virtually no heat signature for orbital assets to detect, and Iran's saturation philosophy was engineered precisely to exceed Israel's point defense capacity. They computed exactly how many interceptors each installation could manage within a specified time frame, then fired 8 to 12 missiles from several azimuths in less than 90 seconds, quantities intentionally selected to surpass the battery's throughput. Some projectiles penetrate. That isn't fortune, that's mathematics. Every individual component of the Fatah 360, from the fuel compound to the guidance circuitry to the production machinery, was conceived and fabricated domestically within Iran despite sanctions. Those embargoes didn't halt the initiative. They compelled Iran to achieve total self-sufficiency, greater ingenuity, and enhanced durability than if it had merely purchased systems externally. Isolation forged a defense sector that now operates autonomously. Within hours, the White House Situation Room was crowded wall to wall. The National Security Council convened emergency proceedings. The Joint Chiefs participated via encrypted connection with Central Command. The Secretary of State contacted every Gulf partner simultaneously, and the sole public statement released expressed profound concern and an appeal for moderation. That phrasing struck Tel Aviv like another warhead. The standard American response protocol: deploy carriers toward the Gulf, project a credible deterrent, compel de-escalation via diplomatic backchannels, and if necessary strike Iranian installations with precision munitions, just collided with reality. Repositioning carriers now entails accepting hazards the US Navy evidently refuses to embrace. Issuing ultimatums only functions if the opponent believes you'll execute them, yet Iran just demonstrated it doesn't. And any substantial assault on Iranian missile facilities would activate Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iraqi militias simultaneously, a regional war that American strategic simulations indicate carries expenses Washington isn't prepared to absorb. Discreetly, strategists are also posing the question nobody at the Pentagon once voiced publicly. If Nevatim can be targeted this precisely from over 1,000 kilometers distance, how secure are American installations like Al Udeid in Qatar, Al Dhafra in the Emirates, or Incirlik in Turkey? The Pentagon's silence provides the clearest response imaginable. For 75 years, Israeli defense has relied on one inviolable foundation: absolute air dominance. The capability to strike anywhere, anytime with accuracy and zero apprehension. That foundation was fractured at its base last night. 40 F-35s constitute approximately 60% of Israel's operational ADA inventory. The remaining aircraft are now dispersed among civilian airfields and auxiliary sites under persistent threat of subsequent attacks. Every hour passing without another barrage is an hour Iran selects restraint, meaning Iran now controls the tempo of this confrontation. Gaza campaigns are already proceeding with drastically reduced aircraft availability. Close air support that Israeli ground forces relied upon is significantly curtailed. The northern boundary facing Hezbollah has transformed overnight. Hezbollah command recognizes the Israeli Air Force operates under severe limitations, and their escalation calculus has adjusted accordingly. Syria has transformed into forbidden territory for Israeli sorties. Iranian armament convoys to Hezbollah will now proceed unimpeded. Each destroyed F-35 represents roughly $100 million. 40 units total $4 billion in equipment, a financial blow unprecedented in modern Israeli history, and one that no insurance policy, emergency American assistance package, or legislative appropriation can remedy rapidly enough. Step back and examine the broader context. The entire post-Cold War arrangement in the Middle East rested on two premises: American military capability is invulnerable, and Israel's technological superiority is perpetual. Iran just demolished both. For 45 years, it endured the maximum pressure the planet's foremost superpower could exert. And last night it annihilated 60% of the most advanced fighter squadron on Earth at the most defended installation in the region. The signal to every global capital is unmistakable. The established order is negotiable. Russia observes from Moscow with subdued gratification. Every hour America remains entangled here is an hour it cannot concentrate elsewhere. China monitors from Beijing. Its own anti-carrier ballistic missile doctrine just received live fire validation in real-world conditions. And the Gulf kingdoms are conducting emergency calculations on whether American security commitments retain meaning when last night's evidence smolders on the ground. What occurred at Nevatim wasn't merely a military operation, it was a pronouncement inscribed in fire across the desert horizon. The traditional Middle East power structure is finished. Iran's Fatah 360 didn't just eliminate 40 jets. It shattered the illusion of Israeli air invincibility, the reliability of American deterrence in its present configuration, and the comfortable assumption that superior technology combined with alliances guarantees enduring security. Israel awakens stripped of offensive air capability. Washington awakens lacking straightforward options that don't risk total war. And Iran awakens having validated that genuine strategic autonomy isn't rhetoric, it's a functional capability that delivers results. The sole remaining question is whether the opposing side possesses the insight to recognize that the traditional playbook is exhausted and that the only viable path ahead proceeds through earnest diplomacy with an Iran that has just proven conclusively it cannot be coerced into capitulation. That question lacks a simple solution, but it's the correct one. And as this narrative continues developing, I'll remain right here dissecting it with identical, unfiltered commentary. If this analysis impacted you as profoundly as it affected me, do me a significant favor immediately. Hit that like button hard. Leave a comment below sharing your perspective. Do you believe this transforms the complete regional dynamic? And subscribe with alerts enabled so you never miss the following update as situations evolve. Your engagement sustains this channel independent and expanding. Let's maintain the dialogue active. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay vigilant.